Amendment, and then the memo comes out, CBS News, to blame the Second Amendment. That's a false flag. But let me raise this point. NBC has the headline that Israel works with terror group, and then you read it's an al-Qaeda group, to kill scientists in Iran. Well, Bush was doing that as well, and now they've given al-Qaeda control of Libya. Even LA Times admits they're putting al-Qaeda groups in via NATO into Syria. So how can they freak out when people point out that our own government is even working with these groups out of Saudi Arabia? I mean, this is in the news now that they're this evil.
Well, al-Qaeda, we always have to remember, and I'm not myself sure what that is. It's certainly an ideological tendency. Maybe it's more than that, but to the extent that it's an organized group, it was founded and funded by the U.S. government in the war against the Russians in Afghanistan. This is where Osama bin Laden came into it, and all these similar people were being funded through Pakistan and directly by the CIA to fight the Russians. And then one of the things the U.S. did in order to fight the Russians was gather every what they would now refer to as Islamic extremists into that battle to go into Afghanistan, and eventually, of course, they did toss out the Russians. So this whole group has had CIA connections from the very beginning, and so yeah, they're being put into Libya. The U.S. wants, like any empire, the Romans had the rule divide et impera, divide and conquer, divide and rule, divide and dominate. And so that's the way empires work. So they want to cause trouble because if people are peaceful and happy, there's no room to make trouble. So they want unrest, they want war, they want destruction because it enables them to take power and enrich themselves and all the rest of the things that empires do. So yeah, this is they're getting rid of one way to look at what's happening to Syria and the same thing in Iraq. They're getting rid of the last secular Arab, the last non-Islamicist Arab regime in the world in Syria. Now, I'm no fan of Assad, but on the other hand, as I think we can see from Iraq, things can get worse. And so I know that the al-Qaeda groups, the Islamicist groups that are coming to power via the U.S. and NATO in Syria, want to ethnically cleanse all the Christians out of Syria. Again, this is a country that's had the ancient Christian communities that go back to the time of Christ. They want to get them out. Maybe they'll murder them, too, but they certainly want to throw them out of their homes and push them out of the country. The same with the minority Alawites, which is a Muslim sect that the other Muslims think of as heretical. That's what Assad belongs to. So they want to kill them. That's what they're saying. They're going to put them up against the wall and shoot them. The Christians, they're only going to ethnically cleanse them. Thanks a lot. So this is being promoted by the U.S. government. Hillary Clinton, the warlordess, and so forth, calling on more destruction. The so-called Syrian Free Army is entirely a creation of the U.S. And again, this is a dictatorship. This is not a.
And now it's escalating.
This is a bad government. I'll agree, but they're going to make it worse, just as in Libya.
Well, exactly. And then Newsweek comes out and says there's a war on Christians, and everywhere they show, it's Western proxy groups that are killing the Christians. And you watch when the jihadis kill the Christians, they're going to spin that and say we got to have more wars. The Muslims are killing the Christians. All because the general public isn't paying attention. And they say, TSA's got to grope your wife and take your baby's diaper off and give you a genital exam because of Al-Qaeda. And you're like, but you're running Al-Qaeda. It's just amazing.
Well, this is the way of empires. I mean, pretty much, I think we can always assume in the old British formulation that you shouldn't believe anything from the government until it's officially denied.
Yes.
You can't really believe anything the government says. And especially when you get into intelligence areas and military areas, these people are professional liars. I mean, that's their job, to lie, to kill, to steal, and so forth. That's their thing in life. So sometimes people from the government tell the truth. We have this lieutenant colonel with this impressive new article on Afghanistan out in the Armed Forces Journal. So it happens. But
I tell you what, stay there, Lew. Former Ron Paul Chief of Staff, head of the von Mises Institute. Lew Rockwell's our guest. We'll be right back and talk more about the Ron Paul campaign. Then we'll get into drones and your phone calls. I'll give the number out when we come back. All right. You want to talk to Lew Rockwell about Ron Paul or other issues? He is quite the brain. Pretty much a Ron Paul clone, and that's a compliment. Or maybe Ron Paul's a Lew Rockwell clone. Doesn't matter, does it? We're of the same mind. Liberty and more of it, and still more. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259 9231. 800-25-99-231. Well, Lou, if there was ever a seal of approval that Ron Paul was the good guy, it's the demonization, the attacks, the whole political system lining up against him, the trendies in Hollywood coming out against him, but then so many other endorsements across the political spectrum. It shows that liberty's rising. But, you say not 100% proof of fraud. I mean, look, he doubled or more in every other caucus what he got 4 years ago, except Nevada. We've shown the graphs, exact results he got 4 years ago. That's just them being too lazy to fix the machines. Exit polls not showing the same thing. They've said the Iowa caucuses are going to be thrown out, but don't say what that means. They admitted that they would drive the ballots in precincts where Paul was winning and then never report them. I mean, there is evidence of fraud. It's just that, if Ron Paul starts talking about it, then I guess he has to keep moving forward. But why do you think Paul hasn't talked more about this?
Well, my guess is, first of all, of course, he's concentrating on the campaign. He's working very hard in Maine right now, where things are looking very, very good. But he would have to have proof. I'm sure he feels that he has to deal with it within the system as it is. And if he felt he had proof, he would talk about it. But he doesn't feel he has proof, so therefore he doesn't talk about it. And again, he wants to always concentrate on the key issues. He wants to talk about the cause of peace. He wants to talk about the Federal Reserve. He wants to talk about our civil liberties. He wants to talk about government deficits and spending and all the various crimes that are going on. And that's what he knows about. That's what he wants to talk about. And he always takes the high road. This guy always, unlike anybody else in politics, he always takes the high road. So it's just not. This is for other people to discuss. Ron is talking about the issues that matter not only to our country but to the whole world, because this is a worldwide phenomenon of the increase of dictatorship and of corporatism, of a fascist economic system, and all the other horrible things. Of course, the wars, all the dead, the people maimed, and the diseases and starvation that are being promoted by the U.S. These are what they call sanctions. So that's what's. By the way, I don't speak for Ron in any sense, but just my supposition that this is why he wants to take this is what he's always done his whole life. He takes the high road.
Well, and sure, there's not 100% smoking gun. We just know there's fraud and chicanery going on. But that shouldn't keep people from getting out there and supporting him because he still has a chance to win. I mean, he's coming in second place, third place, first place. When he does, they don't give it any attention. But he's getting a lot of delegates. And even Politico, I was reading today, is saying this could get contested now because nobody's going to really have a majority of the delegates. And a lot of people are going and becoming delegates. So what could happen in the convention?
Well, first of all, it's possible to win the nomination without ever having won a primary.
Yes.
So he can accumulate. He is accumulating delegates. And there's all kinds of people I've talked to in these recent elections, Ron Paul people who were elected as delegates. So they may have to vote for whoever wins, Santorum or whatever on the first ballot, although there's even a question about that. But in a contested convention, then they're free at some point. Maybe it's after the first ballot. Sometimes it's after the second ballot. They're free to vote their conscience. And, of course, that's Ron Paul. So it is absolutely important to work for him, to vote for him, to help him out, to donate to his cause, because this is the cause of liberty. This is the cause of our future. This is the cause of if we care about the life that our kids and our grandkids and our future descendants are going to have, we don't want to be living in some kind of fascist wasteland. We better support Ron Paul. And they can't steal everything. They only steal on the margin. Absolutely. Even though we think the system is potentially entirely crooked or partially crooked, he still is having an effect. The crowds he's drawing in everywhere he goes, whether it's Minnesota or Maine or Colorado or whatever, he draws vast crowds. And Gingrich, by the way, draws nobody, even though he's allegedly getting so much.
Well, that's the thing. As I see Ron Paul stickers all over the country, he's got all these celebrity endorsements, congressional endorsements, incredible support. Sometimes he has 20,000 people, 10,000 routinely. Small crowds are 6,000. And Gingrich literally shows up and one person's there, and it turns out they're paid. 93%. As the news reported of his Twitters are fake. It's the same thing with Romney. I mean, this is, obviously it's a fraud. But again, I want to come back and get more into what you think we can do to get Ron Paul in there. I want to hit some other news items, get your view on where this world's going, and take phone calls with Lew Rockwell and ask him where he sees the economy going. He's really an expert in economics more than anything, founding the Ludwig von Mises Institute. So that's all coming up, but we are definitely seeing a huge awakening. In fact, I want to ask him about that on the other side, because people are getting angry. I'm getting angrier, and we're not mincing words.
We're on the march. The Empire.
All right, Lew Rockwell's our guest till the end of the hour. And then I've got an internal military source at a FEMA camp training base, which the Wall Street Journal admits they've built emergency centers. And the Army Times admits they're training for civilian inmate labor camp guards. And I have the Emergency Centers Establishment Act. But it's a conspiracy theory, even though I've been to the urban warfare drills and showed the military training to put Americans in camps. Just last year, we sent the crew to Chicago. And it showed local police with troops, with role players. They got the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts to be part of it, being handcuffed and taken into to the sports stadium. Oh, man, the system just counts on us being ignorant. I want to get into the economy more on Ron Paul, Lew Rockwell, but, I mean, you really are a intellect historically. You understand history. You've got a very interesting, perspective on things that I respect and value. But I'm really starting to get freaked out. It's one thing to know all this tyranny's coming, and to see it repeat itself in history, to have Homeland Security admit that they want to set up a tyranny, to have all these flyers I just showed listeners and viewers that the FBI has on their site saying if somebody pays with cash, get their license number and report them. If somebody's in an internet cafe using an internet proxy, call the police on them. I mean, it's clearly to make everybody a suspect. And now I was reading, even in the New York Times, $63 billion for the FAA over the next 4 years. They've passed the legislation, and it says half the money is for a fleet of drones, including Reapers and Predators that are armed. I mean, this is in the news, and then it's like I'm waking up in the Twilight Zone. I'm watching Fox News, a clip on YouTube, and they've got a hovercraft unmanned thing that fires tasers at people. I mean, what more? It's just... And then the Russians are putting Spetsnaz into Syria. The Iranians are sending in their people. Hillary says it's war. They just blew up Libya and admit they've killed like 40,000 people. They're lining them up. They're torturing the French ambassador. They've run al-Qaeda flags up. I mean, ruling elites we know go crazy. From studying this, do you think we've reached a Nero or Caligula or Hitler invading Russia moment where the Anglo-American banking cartel has just gone completely bonkers? Because, I mean, they already started a war with Russia on 888 and backed off. It just, I'm freaked out. I know I'm ranting, sir. What do you say to that?
Well, I think it's, I share your concern. I think there's no question that the neoconservatives especially have got a crazy gene, and they think that they can just start any war, and it'll only have the effects that they hope it'll have and not, spread. So are they wanting to start with, is Obama and Hillary, and of course these people are just really sticky faces on the lapel of the oligarchy. They're not really running things, but they're the spokespeople. The other, they want a regional war. They want destruction. Government always loves war because it suppresses internal dissent and it makes taxation easier. And if you're questioning the government, you're unpatriotic and all the rest of it. But it is alarming. And like you, Alex, I've fought against this stuff all my life, and I've worried about it and tried to do what I could against it. But the speed of it since 9/11 is really quite extraordinary. The speed of it, the increasing fascism. That's where we live in Roosevelt was our first fascist president. We've had a mild fascism